Hello, everyone. This is Bob Lowe, CSIA Executive Director. Thank you for attending the December CSIA webinar. Today's webinar will provide you with some insight on marketing your control system integration company without spending a fortune. The host and sponsor of our monthly webinars is Software Toolbox, a CSIA partner member. Software Toolbox helps system integrators lower their risk on projects involving software by providing them a unique mix of off-the-shelf software products and rapid response technical support that minimizes the need for custom code and lowers field startup time risk. I would like to introduce today's webinar presenter, Walt Boyes. Walt has more than 30 years of experience in sales, sales management, marketing, and product development in the automation industry, both for sensors, devices, and control systems for industrial and environmental controls. He also has executive committee and board experience in several companies. Walt currently is serving as editor-in-chief of Control magazine and controlglobal.com. Because of his broad subject matter expertise and business experience, he is uniquely qualified as a global automation industry analyst. Without further delay, here's Walt.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I want to let you know that I'm recovering from a cold, so if the phone goes quiet or I don't quite make it, I apologize if I have to cough. At least I don't sound like Mickey Mouse like I did last week at this time. Today we're going to talk about marketing solutions that are specifically tailored for control system integrators. Solutions that are tailored for small, engineering-oriented businesses and not for equipment suppliers. These solutions need to be, quite frankly, cheap, and they need to provide significant bang for the buck. Now, we're not going to be able to get into too much detail because we've got 30 minutes here, but I'm going to try to give you a look at the things you should be doing if you're not, and some tools that will help you do the things you should be doing. Most of you know me best as a magazine editor, but in my nearly 40 years in the automation industry, I've spent a lot of time in sales, sales management, marketing, and business development. I've made a living as a field salesman and as a control system integrator. Of course, that was back when we called it being a panel shop. So I'm speaking as somebody who's been there, done that, and somewhere I've still got the T-shirt tacked up on the wall. Integration services are neither fish nor fowl, and it's difficult to understand how to market these services as an integrator. Selling, sure, that's different. You get on the bid list, that's selling. You bid, you get the job. Selling is about getting the job. We're going to talk about what happens before the selling, or at least what's supposed to. Nearly every control system integrator starts with at least one good client in his or her pocket. You know them, they know you. You don't have to market or prospect. You only have to close the business you know they have. If you work it right, and you're really lucky, the first customers you have will keep you busy for maybe even years until you build your staff, procedures, policies, practices, benchmarks, and maybe even get audited and become a certified member of CSIA, all without ever having to find a new customer. Or maybe not. Maybe you're going to have to go find customers before you can sell them your services. Marketing is like geography. It tells you where to find customers. Sales is like chess. Once you've found the customers, sales is about what you can do with them. Most system integrators don't understand the value of marketing, and so they don't do it very well. Well, don't feel bad, because most automation vendors don't understand marketing either, and very few of them do it well. Marketing, at least the feature, function, benefit style that most automation vendors do, is very difficult when you're not selling a product per se. System integration isn't a product, it's selling work. Engineering hours, software development time, panel fabrication, panel installation, and commissioning time. How do you differentiate the work you're selling from the work of Joe Doak's control system integrator and that he's selling possibly cheaper than you? Well, here's a hint. It isn't on feature, function, and benefit. What it is about your brand values, Do you respond at 3 a.m.? Can you get somebody there when you really need to have somebody there? Do you know what you're talking about? Did you slap this together without any documentation? Those are the things that you can differentiate yourself on. And it's one of the reasons that being a certified CSIA integrator is such a remarkably good differentiator. It's about shop loading, you know, having enough work so that everybody in your organization is doing billable work. That's so you can pay them. Cash flow is king, and negative cash flow is dangerous. We all know that. So what do? Well, we concentrate on bringing in the next big project. Sometimes all we have are little projects that help us get by until the big one comes along, but we're always after a big one. Sales brings in cash. Marketing spends it. So most integrators, and for that matter, most automation vendors, skimp on marketing in favor of sales. Yes. The president of the control system integrator is also often the #1 salesman, or maybe the only salesman, the rainmaker. When things are fat and there's lots of projects in-house, the CEO is often also the manager of all the projects, making sure that all the work gets done on time and hopefully under budget. First, he goes out and shoots the elephant, drags it home, and then supervises the skinning and butchering. If there are other elephants out there, who cares? Shop's full. We got all the work we can do. Well, what do you do when times are not good? We've just lived through, and maybe are still living through, some genuinely bad times. Companies who weren't prepared didn't do well. Some failed. Some were acquired. Some integrators are in the unemployment line. Marketing, continuous integrated marketing, is what you do to prepare for hard times. Marketing gives you the ability to reach out and touch all your potential customers regularly and frequently, whether they have business right now or not, and not just the few you're doing a project for right now. The days of being able to staff up and staff down on a project basis are long gone. You need to make sure you can keep and pay for the knowledge workers you have. So let's look at what marketing can do for you. At the highest level, marketing is branding and management of your brand. A brand is a gestalt of all the beliefs, feelings, facts, knowledge, and all the things that everybody knows about you, your company, your products, and your services. That's made up of all the things that your customers, your staff, and even your competitors think they know about you. A brand is organic. It grows. You have to be a gardener. Branding is mostly a function of talking the talk and walking the walk, and letting your performance be known. You can't expect that your customers will beat a path to your door, but you can manage what they expect to find as they use the maps that you so thoughtfully handed out to them. Most people forget that last part, the part about letting your performance be known. You don't have to spend enormous amounts of money either. What you do have to do is to spend enough. The results of the Reader's Choice Awards every year make it clear that small companies can have brands that are just as strong as the huge vendors. And so can you, if you work at it. Another major function of marketing is sales lead generation. Sales lead generation isn't a sales function. It starts the sales function. It starts the sales cycle. A continuous stream of sales leads is how you defend against the time when there aren't any more elephants. It also gives you the opportunity to cherry pick if you have more potential projects than you can work on. This is a good thing because sometimes saying I'm too full to an end user customer is not necessarily bad. You can't control what you can't measure. As automation professionals, we all know that. It's one of the most important things we learn. But we don't often apply that to our business metrics. Another significant capability of marketing is analytics. You should be able to tell how successful your sales efforts are in other ways than just aggregate revenue. You should be able to tell how profitable your sales are and how happy your customers are. You should also be able to predict what services you provide that are the most wanted and also the most likely to be profitable. You should be able to do those things relatively easily, but you can't do that without data and the analytics to measure it. You can't ask the salespeople to do data collection. If you are your rainmaker, you know that writing down data is the last thing you want to do. You want to be off to the next sales call, and that's what everybody does. Salespeople are all tactical, and they're all about making a sale, getting an order. You need a marketing function with people whose job is to do the number crunching, and you have to pay for that. I guarantee you that if you do that correctly and you keep doing it, it will pay for itself in sales leads, new business, and higher brand values. But before you do anything, you need to have a plan. Plans, as Robert Burns, the Scottish poet, said, oft gang agley. They can go wrong. You need to decide exactly what your objectives are, what you want to be when you grow up. Many companies have failed because they've jumped from really cool opportunity to another really cool opportunity to another really cool opportunity instead of producing a plan and having the discipline to carry the plan out. General plans are easy, but they rarely survive the alligators in the swamp. I'm sure we all have experience of that. Plans should have associated goals and associated metrics so you can see how you're doing and so that you can revise the plan and continue to do the revised plan. If you don't know how you're doing, you can't change the plan. Now, goals are supposed to be SMART, and some of you may already know that acronym. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Goals have to partake of all of those things. Setting specific goals means you have to answer 6 W questions: who, what, where, when, which, and why. And there's a how in there too. What person, who is, what the personnel involved are you going to have to do this work? What do you want to accomplish? Where do you want to accomplish it? When, what time frame do you need this goal accomplished in? Which resources, requirements, and constraints are you going to be dealing with? And here's the hidden how. How do you deal with resources and requirements and those constraints? And why? What's your specific purpose in achieving this goal? So measurable means measurable, not airy-fairy, but real measurable data, numbers that you can see, and it needs to be measurable in a relatively easy fashion. On a spreadsheet, for example, we all know how to use Excel. Your goals need to be attainable. That means you can't set blue sky goals. You can't really set stretch goals. The goals you set have to actually be attainable in real time by real people, by you. They have to be realistic. You have to take a really good look at what you can do and what you can't do and set goals that fit within, I can do this, instead of, wouldn't it be nice if we could do this? Because that's not a goal. And it has to be timely. A goal has to be timely. You have to have it be time-bound. You have to know what the completion date is and what all the milestones planning backward from the completion date you have to achieve to get to a satisfactory completion of your goal. T also stands for tangible. You got to have something at the end of the goal. A satisfied customer, a system that's working, money in the bank. All of those things are tangible, and they mean that you have achieved your goal. There's an old Texas saying that I just quoted up there: you got to dance with what brung you. How often do you talk to your customers, present and past? Most of us don't talk to our customers anywhere often enough except during the actual sales process. It's almost like we don't care, we don't want to talk to them unless they actually have work for us, and then we talk to them. Customers generally feel kind of abused by that attitude. But you know, your customers are a significant resource. In fact, they're probably your most significant resource next to the intellectual property you own and the knowledge and expertise of yourself and your staff. They are a significant resource for branding, referrals, and even new business. So one of the first smart goals you should make should be to make and carry out a plan to stay in contact with all your customers on a regular basis. And we're going to talk about how to do that. Marketing is about contact with your customers in a non-sales situation. This is the time you talk to your customers when they don't necessarily have a project for you. Marketing is what moves your customers toward a sale or lets you understand why they aren't going to buy anything. You have many different ways to reach your customers. Advertising isn't usually helpful when you have a relatively small geographical profile, and most system integrators do. 100, 150 to 300 mile diameter around each of your offices. Beyond that, it's kind of hard to do work if you're a relatively small-sized integrator. So targeting your customers works a lot better than spray and pray advertising. And I don't care if my boss hears that, even though I publish a magazine, it's still true. Some of the tools that work really well are telephone communication with your customers. Really. Doing surveys and getting your customers to tell you what they really feel. Newsletters, email newsletters, print newsletters, and of course, the ubiquitous social media. Don't just jump into social media. It's a tool, just like all the rest of the tools in your toolbox. But all of these tools let you provide value-added conversation to your customers. And that is a very important thing. For years, marketing was one way. You pushed the message you wanted to your customers. We're wonderful. We're great. You need to buy our services. And when you didn't give them an opportunity to talk back to you, the only way they had to talk back to you was when they didn't give you the order. And then they might tell you why not. The most important effect of email, discussion forums, and social media like LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter have been to force marketers into a conversation with the customers. Marketers no longer have control of the message. The customers do. The customers are clamoring for that control, so don't fight them. Give it to them. How you handle the conversation has major effects on your brand. Do you participate in the conversation on LinkedIn? There are over 100 automation-related groups on LinkedIn. How many of them do you belong to and regularly participate in? You don't have to belong to all of them. Pick the ones that are specific to what you're doing and belong to them. How much of the time do you participate in discussions on CSIA's Integrator Forum? How often do you spend time talking to your customers on Facebook? Do you have a Facebook page that they can like? How often do you write a blog, for example? All of these things showcase your expertise, and they have a tremendous effect on your brand. The more interactive with your customers you are, the higher your brand values are. The less interactive you are with your customers, the lower your brand values are. Low brand values eventually translate to low sales. Once you've made a plan for your company and you set marketing goals, you can decide on the tools you want to use to carry out the plan. As we've said, there's lots of marketing tools that you should have in your toolbox. A website. Most of you have websites. I'm sure you all have websites, but how many of them are business card websites? In other words, it's a static thing, has 1 or 2 pages, and a PHP script to send an email. Those are pretty useless in terms of being interactive with your customers. How many of you actually do telephone prospecting? I'm going to suggest that very few of you do, and even fewer of you know how to do it correctly. Do you have a blog? Do you post to that blog every couple of days? And do you say things that are value add? Do you say things that your customers are interested in? Do you say things that mean something to your customers? And do you link that blog to Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn so that every time you post a blog, it shows up on all the major social media sites? Do you participate in customer forums? We talked about that. One of the longest-lived customer forums is the automation list at control.com. We started that in early 1994, and it's still going strong. People come there and ask questions. If you can answer them, you are showcasing your expertise. There are lots of those forums around. Pick a few that you think will give you a good bang for the buck and do those things. Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn are all useful, especially when you're talking to younger engineers. Younger engineers don't want to talk to vendors. They want to talk to their peers. If you are out there answering questions, being an expert, suddenly they consider you a peer, not a vendor, and you get listened to. Also, there's the thing about articles. Every magazine and every website in this industry would be absolutely delighted to get an article from a control system integrator or an integrator and an end user on a project that they did, how they did it, what the problems were, did they get it done on time, what were the little kinks in the project, and so forth and so on. Try writing articles. If you can't, there are people out there who will be happy to write it for you, and they're not that expensive. I know a whole bunch of them. In fact, I do it myself. The other thing that most integrators don't do is send out news releases. News releases don't always get picked up. It depends on how important the editor thinks it is. But news releases about integrator A just got this really big contract to provide X, Y, and Z to end user B are always of interest. Press releases about Johnny Jump Up being named first vice president of the men's room, those are only interesting to Mr. Jump Up and Mr. Jump Up's mother. So think about the kind of news releases you do. But remember, articles, news releases, blogs, all of those things contribute to the drumbeat. And every time you beat the drum, people look at you. The more that the drumbeat is going and the more consistent your drumbeat is, the more often people look at you and the higher your brand values become. There's also the opportunity for you to touch your customers by newsletters. A once-a-month e-newsletter is a very good way to stay in touch with your customers. And a quarterly paper newsletter changes things up, and it's really quite remarkable when you get one in the mail. E-newsletters and newsletters in general are just like all the other things we were talking about. They have to have value add. No puffery about how wonderful you are, who all your people are, none of that stuff. It has to be about the applications and things like that that your customers really want to hear. Your customers have already decided how they feel about you, and that's long before they contact you, if they do. Remember, you just can't do one thing and sit back to see what happens. You need a continuous, targeted marketing strategy which is integrated. You write an article, you put it on your blog, you tweet the fact that you put it on your blog, and you tweet that your article's on your website or in a magazine website. You post it to Facebook, you post it to LinkedIn, you post it to an email newsletter. You put it in a paper newsletter, And then you do a survey. Did you read it? Do you like it? What about it did you not like? What would you rather have us do? What are other things that you need to know about that we're not providing? What things do you need to know about that nobody is providing? And then you do it again. You measure, you adjust, and you do it again. Doing marketing this way will give you more projects than you can possibly do. And quite honestly, having been in the opposite situation as a system integrator, it's really nice to be able to turn down work. The heart of your tool set is your set of customer databases. If yours isn't current and you aren't mining it on a daily basis, why ever not? Mining your database is the most cost-effective marketing tool that you have. Is your database current? Well, if not, why not? There's not much excuse in the days of cloud-based, inexpensive customer relationship management, that's CRM, tools like Salesforce.com, for not having good data on your prospects and customers. Unfortunately, having good data doesn't help if you don't use it. Email is very useful, and it's often overused. Successful email marketing must provide value, and your customers must see it as valuable. In other words, it has to be valuable to them, not necessarily to you. Application stories, case studies, tutorials, and news that is of interest to your customers, not necessarily to you, all can be mailed to your customers both by email and every few months in print just to change it up. A regular Ask the Expert feature that drives people to your website for more value add is a powerful tool. Every time you appear on a LinkedIn discussion forum, every time you appear on any discussion forums, point to your Ask the Expert forum and say, there's more information here. There's always more information on our website. Get people to come to your website and then make your website interactive. Put white papers there. Put lots of good information there that your customers don't necessarily have access to somewhere else. If you don't have time to write white papers, like I said, there are people out there who are knowledgeable automation professionals who will be absolutely happy to write them for you. And it isn't hard to get them to do it. The way I do it and the way a number of other people do it is we ask you for a 100-word abstract of what you want the paper to say, 8 or 9 bullet points of what you want the white paper or article to cover, and then we turn around and give you a first draft for correction. It's pretty simple, and it's not that expensive either. So let's talk about the next tool in the toolbox, telephone prospecting. Telephone prospecting is not telemarketing. You don't set up a robocall system, and you don't have your junior-most secretary calling people. You have people like yourselves doing the calling. Because what it is having a conversation with your customers. And who better to have that conversation than you? Jack Worth, author of High Probability Selling, has developed a fast, effective prospecting method, and there are others. You can gauge prospects' interests, honest to God, in less than a minute, and then you don't waste their time and make your prospects angry. If you call up a prospect and you say, hi, I'm John Integrator, and this is the kind of integration that I do, are you interested in talking about any projects that you might have? And if they say, no, we don't have any projects right now that fit that description, and you say, thank you, call you again sometime, goodbye, you have not wasted their time, and they will take your call the next time you call them. Instead of saying, oh, God, there's that long-winded blowhard again. Trying to disqualify customers quickly allows you to get efficiently to the right now prospects. A lot of people don't realize that the great ocean of prospects is divided into 2 groups, and those groups move in and out of each other fairly easily. There's the right now prospects, the people who have a project or are thinking about doing a project, and they want help doing it right now. Those are the people you want to get to. But in the great sea of projects and prospects, there's a whole bunch of people who don't have a project right now, don't want to do anything right now. And the object of the game is to get through those people as fast as you can to find the prospects that really want to do something right now. You can learn more about Worth's methodology, at least, at www.highprobsell.com. That's highprobsell.com. Now, Worth's book is aimed primarily at sales, but the principles are easily applicable to marketing and lead generation as well. I asked him once why he didn't write a book on high probability marketing, and he said, I really did. You just have to think about it in a different term. It's a good book. I recommend it. Part of the book, at least, is online, so you can read it. Check it out because his methodology works. I've been using it for a long time. I've taught it to people, including other integrators. And everybody who has used it and actually done what that type of selling calls for says it works. Customers are beginning to use social media to get information, solve problems, and learn from their peers. You must be there so you can share your expertise and be seen to do that. Like I said, if you are seen to be an expert, then you become a peer or above a peer, and these young people, Gen X and the regen generation, will talk to you. They will listen to you. They will take your advice, and they will buy things from you. But social media doesn't exist in a vacuum. You have to do social media in combination with all the other things that we've been talking about. Now, to learn a lot more about social media, especially for scientists and engineers and integrators, I want you to check out a book that I asked my friend John DiPietro, who's also been a system integrator, to write for Momentum Press. It's called Social Media for Engineers and Scientists, and it's available from Amazon and other online book retailers. It's really good because it's an engineer talking about how to do social media for engineers, how you can do it as an engineer, and how to touch engineers with social media. I recommend the book very highly. So we're coming to a close here, and what we have been doing is talking about doing a few simple things. Keep your marketing efforts simple, but keep doing them. William Hesketh Lever was not wrong. Thank you very much. Now we can go to questions.
Okay. Thanks, Walt. I think one of them, and you kind of touched on this when you circled back and talked about what you meant by telephone prospecting, is many marketing experts say that telephone prospecting is so old-fashioned and unproductive. Is this really true?
Not if you do it the way that I and Jack Worth can teach you to do it, because what you're really doing is you're winnowing. You're not trying to set up appointments so that you can send your salesman in so that he can dump dirt on the floor and show you how good his suck broom works so that he can beat you into becoming a customer. What you're doing is winnowing the number of prospects out there and getting the ones who are really interested and thanking the other ones and going on.
Okay. You know, the other thing related to that would be that we did a webinar a few months ago on CSIA, and you can get the recording. Bob, who was it we had on? He had a list of like 18 things that are good topics to have a conversation with your users related to projects you've done for them that can become a good way to understand how you've helped them, how you could help them more, and have that conversation. Do you remember which one that was, Bob?
I believe that was David Stone.
Yes, thank you. It was Stone.
Yes, I believe any of our listeners here can go back. If you go to controlsys.org, you can get all of the past webinars. And actually, David Stone will be a presenter at our conference in April. He'll be speaking for 90 minutes, and he's superb.
So one of the things that you have to remember is that you have to remember all that stuff in the 80s and early 90s about mission statements and vision statements. Well, some of that was actually useful. If you have a mission statement and it's really good, that's what you set your goals around. How do I get there? I want to have $50 million in integration revenue in 5 years. Well, how do you get that? Well, the way you get that is you start at 5 years less 1 month, and you say, how do I get to 5 years from where I need to be here? And you do what's called planning backward. You build your milestones backward so that when you get to your starting point, the milestones are clear all the way to the end point, and you know everything you need to do to get to the end. What a lot of people do when they try to do planning exercises is they start at the beginning. Well, the choices are infinite after when you set your goal, and you have to. It's easier to plan backward. How did I get here? 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 And you do the same thing with marketing. If you want to be a $50 million integrator in 5 years, then you have to figure out what you have to do in marketing to get there. And you have to plan backwards. And then you have to fund the effort. It's make the plan, do the plan. Make the plan, do the plan.
Amen.
Okay, I have a question for you, Walt.
Sure.
One of the difficulties in telephone prospecting is that frequently you get a person's voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
What do you recommend saying in a voicemail, or do you even recommend leaving a voice message?
There's two schools of thought about that. One is that you can leave the message that you were going to say to the person. The other is just hang up and go to the next call. My personal preference is to leave a message. You have about 30 seconds. Sorry about that. You have about 30 seconds to get your customer's attention when you call them up. Mm-hmm. So what you have to have is what you're going to say pared down to its absolute essentials. Mm-hmm. Hi, my name is Bob Lowe. I'm Executive Director of CSIA, and I'm interested in knowing whether, as an integrator, you would like to take your company to a higher level. Mm-hmm. That's a yes or no question.
Do you recommend leaving the message such that they call you back, or that you will call them again in the near future?
Give them both choices.
Okay.
The problem, the reason a lot of people don't like doing that is because if you give them the choice, they'll almost always choose the choice you don't want them to. But if you establish a relationship of mutual respect and trust, which you can do by being a company with high brand values and being a known expert, they'll call you if they have something. And they won't if they don't. And you keep trying. Even if they don't call you, if you've got, well, a 10,000 name prospect list is not out of the question for anybody. I know 10 different automation distributors who have mailing lists that large. Your mailing list may be smaller or not. You may be able to piggyback on top of your best friend distributor's mailing list. You may be able to do a lot of things like that. But the key is that there are always people out there who want your services, always. The key is to get through all the people who don't want your services and find them and do it quickly and cost effectively. Telemarketing, well, telephone prospecting, the way that I've been talking about it, actually does work.
Okay. There was a question asked by Joseph again. Would a script be good to craft when you leave a message?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You need to have 25 or 30 word sentence that is what you say. It's your offer. And you have to boil it down. This is your escalator speech. It's not even an elevator speech. You have to be very targeted, very to the point. This is what we do. This is what we have on offer right now. You have to have a script, because otherwise you talk and talk and talk and talk, and you might not even get the point out.
Right, and to that point, don't you want to focus on, as integrator owners, you know in your region, in your typical industries where you do well, what the pains are that you solve. Your message has got to get to things that are going to resonate and go, yeah, I do have that pain.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct.
Give them a reason to want to call you back. One of the styles I like is we typically work with, and they're typically frustrated by, fed up with, wishing they could. I don't know if any of that resonates with you. If it does, give me a call back. This is Bob. My number is.
That's right. That's exactly a good way to do it. Christoph Worth has a question, and yes, Christoph, you can ask questions via your PC. Should you first start an email campaign and then phone the people who stay on the campaign? No, actually, you should do both at the same time. And one of the things that you should do when you are talking to them, whether they want to buy anything or not, is to get them to commit to whether they want to be on your email list or not. They're two separate but integrated functions.
Hey, Walt, there's a request from somebody to go back to the Unilever quote slide. I guess
Sure.
I wanted to write that down.
Sure. It's been for many, many years my favorite, very pithy how to run a business slide. I've been using it when I talk to business schools for a long time. The conduct of successful business consists in doing a few simple things, doing them regularly, and never neglecting to do them. Isn't that great?
I mean, we have a base business documents, and there's certain things that are part of that base business functionality that, if you get resource constrained, you make sure you're doing everything on that list before you worry about anything else.
Amen. Amen. Dance with what brung you, and pare the list down to realistic things that you can do, and do the things that matter. All the rest of that stuff, well, all the customers are not leaving town tomorrow.
Yep.
The way the diet coaches say it, hey, all the restaurants are not burning down. You'll have a chance to go and do that after you lose all the weight.
Yep.
So some of these simple things, Walt, might be like that monthly newsletter or that every third day blog. Or those would you give those as examples of marketing tasks that you would consider to be the few simple things that you never ever stop doing? Okay.
Absolutely. If you do them regularly, blogs get a following, especially if you echo the blog to Twitter and to your Facebook page and to your LinkedIn page. Blogs get a following. And when you get a following, then you can talk to people. You can say, I just wrote a new thing about X, Y, and Z for people who want to know how to do DT&M. And it's on our website. Here's the URL. Because that gives you a metric. You can count the number of people who went there. If you want, you can ask them to leave their email address. But I don't necessarily believe in registration like that, because sometimes people really are afraid to do that. And my belief is that you want to make it absolutely dead nuts simple for your customers to talk to you. Anything that gets in the way of your customers talking to you, stop doing it right now. Am I making sense?
I do believe so.
Good.
I don't think you could be much more clear, Walt.
Any other questions that we've got here?
Not that are queued up at this point.
Okay.
Well, with that, I'd like to all of the attendees, I'd like to thank you for your attendance and participation, and my hope is that you'll have several takeaways that you can implement in your marketing plan. Walt, thank you for your contribution of your time and expertise. Your presentation was very insightful, and we wish the best for you, and we'll hopefully see you at the CSIA conference.
Oh, I'll be there.
Oh, I'm sure you will.
I think I've missed one in the last 10 years.
Great. I also want to thank you for mentioning CSIA certification. That is a brand of our association that we want to be fully accepted in the marketplace in the future, and every opportunity that it can be spoken we appreciate. So.
Well, and all the marketing things that I talked about are applicable to organizations just as well as the integrators.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's do more of it.
I agree.
All right.
And John Weber, thank you very much for being our host and sponsor. And also for our attendees, be sure to complete the survey for today's webinar. I beg you to do that. It's our feedback, and it only takes about 30 seconds to complete, and it helps us in our continuous improvement. And in closing, just a couple of bullet items. Contact Ann Nelson in the office to be added to the content contributors. That's a list of those who have committed to writing articles for publications like Control and Control Global. She'll put you on the list and be in touch in the future. I encourage you to implement CSIA best practices. The CSIA Executive Conference, which we just mentioned, the registration opens for that in just a few days, actually. The program is complete. I think you'll be excited. I know I am. And I encourage you to participate in the CSIA statistics program. What gets measured gets done, and this is a way to measure how you're doing in comparison to your peers. Finally, if you ever have a suggested topic for a webinar, please let me know. You can find me on the CSIA website. So I guess for me in closing, I'll say from me and the staff of CSIA, we wish you a wonderful Christmas and a prosperous 2012. And thank you again for being here today.
Thank you. And on that survey, you'll be getting an email at about 15 minutes past the hour, everyone. And that will include the survey link. It'll also include a link to where the recording will be posted later today.
One last thing from me. If you have questions, you want to ask me questions, I'm open to that. Just feel free to contact me. The email address is wboyes, B-O-Y-E-S, at putman, P-U-T-M-A-N.net. And I'll be happy to answer your questions.
And I just pushed that email out into your chat windows for any attendees that are still on the line. When I stop the recording, I'll wait a couple minutes here before I actually shut down the WebEx so you can copy it. So Walt's email is in the chat window. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. Thanks, team.